Well, good evening, everyone. This is Thomas McKenty coming to you live from Chicago, Illinois. And it is a beautiful, somewhat cool evening here. And I'm glad that you could join me and FlipPal and all the other attendees tonight. We're here for a webinar called Family History Trippin'. And this is content that I've developed related to how to plan a family history trip. Family history related genealogy research. It could be just heritage travel, but most of us as genealogists, we know that if we are going to go and travel, we're going to look for the closest cemetery, the closest archive or library, give us an opportunity to do some research. So I'm very happy to be here tonight, and let's review what we're going to cover in the next hour. So we're going to discuss, help you determine what kind of traveler you are. And that is fairly important. And to do that, and I want to make sure that I can see that everyone is seeing my screen here. Yes, we are. Okay, I'm great. You may have seen some black boxes move there on the screen. So we'll talk about what kind of traveler you are, if you ever thought about it, especially if you don't travel a lot. From my personal experience, I am in the airport every 2 weeks minimum, going around teaching genealogy and family history. So I have become a seasoned traveler, and a lot of the tips that I have here are based on my own experience. Planning your trip, the formulas for success. You can plan a successful trip. It's really not that difficult. You have to understand what all the factors are that are involved. Apps and websites you should know. This is really a lot of fun. We'll spend time looking at some resources. Many of them are free. And by the way, we do have a Pinterest board that I will share with you that has all these apps and websites listed there. I use quite a few of them to keep myself organized and really to survive when I'm traveling on the road. Stuff happens. Backup plans and emergencies. What happens when you have an emergency? When it could be something as simple as weather. Cancel flight. It could be a medical emergency, or you've had your phone stolen, etc. And then finally, preserving your trip memories. When you come back from your trip, what are you going to do with all those items that you scanned, photos that you've taken? How are you going to share it with family and friends? Great. Well, let's get started. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you've been traveling for 20 years and doing these research trips. If you're just getting started, you know, there are a lot of tips here that are going to be very helpful to any genealogist or family historian, and these are pulled from my own experience and experience of other genealogists who do a lot of research travel. So first off, why does it matter that you should know what kind of traveler you are? And now that really might seem silly, that you should take time to understand your travel habits. Well, this is my theory, is that if you understand what your must-haves are, what your minimums are, what you like or what you don't like, that's how you can really plan a better trip. The other thing is, this is one of the other reasons, travel partners. If you are going to play Thelma and your friend is going to play Louise, you better know what your likes and dislikes are. Will, you know, a certain type of room, is it a high floor or a low floor? Maybe you want to be near the elevator, not near the elevator. These little things, you know, if you were to go on research with a genealogy friend, they may not be a friend by the end of the trip if you don't fully understand how you both like to travel. This is important, especially if you don't travel a lot. So I want you to get to think about how you prefer to travel. So first recommendation is create a list of travel habits. And I'm going to give you some structure to that list, some things that you want to think about. When you make your list of travel habits, you might, you know, a lot of these sites like American Airlines, a lot of hotel sites even, they have what's called a travel profile. I know at Marriott, I love it because I filled out my travel profile and they know when I check in what I like. Marriott even will supply you with hypoallergenic bedding materials, meaning no down, no feathers. So think of this as you're setting up your own travel profile for your own travel habits. So first off, preparation and packing. I would recommend that you make a list of the must-do tasks and must-see sites. So if you're going to Salt Lake City, you want to go to the library, of course. Maybe you want to spend time at Temple Square. Maybe you want to go to the Deseret bookstore. You should rank those things and say, this would be an unsuccessful trip if I didn't do X. If I didn't go to the Lion House or the Garden or the Roof, those restaurants. Also, are you one of those people that has to plan out every detail and every minute of your trip? Or are you a little bit more flexible and you make up your mind based on the day, the weather, and how you feel? Because some of us do that. Some of us really want to plan out every hour. The downside of that is what happens if, there's an issue. I know a few weeks ago on a Saturday, I found out that the Family History Library was closed. They decided not to open. They had some type of mechanical issue there. And what would happen if, if that's when your trip was? And what if that was your only day to go to the library? Can you make contingency plans? Also, how do you pack? Do you pack a week ahead of time? Or like me, I'm going to Reno, Nevada tomorrow. I won't pack probably until about 12 noon and leave here at 3 in the afternoon because that's the way I am. That's my travel habit. What about your mode of transportation? Think about the different ways that you can use to get to that location. Okay? And so I just want to check in here on any questions or anything with and I'm going to, just so you know, I'm going to pin this resource again. I'm going to post the resource in the chat room in terms of where that is. And let's see. Great. So I just want to make sure that we're okay. And that Patrick Johnson with FlipHal is helping me in the background answer questions. So let's move on to preferred mode of transportation. So think about the ways that you use to get to your destination. Some places are not direct by airplane. You may have to take a bus. You may need to rent a car. What are your must-haves for the mode of transportation? Do you have to have a window seat when you fly? Does it have to be an aisle seat? Do you want the exit row? Do you want a sleeper car on the train? Or can you do it on just simply on a seat? What about accommodations? Now, I have friends that, they've got to have top of the line and they're willing to pay for that. I have other friends that are happy at Motel 6. So think about, what if it's in a rough neighborhood or a high crime area? One thing that I do is when I find a hotel that I'm not familiar with, I go to Google Maps and I look at the street view. And I look and I see what kind of businesses are around there. And I know that's not a guarantee, but it makes me feel more comfortable. Also, think about this. Are you willing to share a room with another researcher? A lot of the big conferences have room share mechanisms put in place to find a roommate. I know NGS does it, FGS does it, a few others. And now with social media, we have people posting on Facebook, I'm going to Jamboree next June. Does anyone want to share a room? So are you willing to share a room with someone? And that opens up that whole box of, okay, well, does someone snore? Do they get up early? Do they make a lot of noise, etc.? So think about that. What do you prefer in terms of accommodations? Expenses. Set a budget for your trip. Make sure you include the necessities like food and accommodations, and also leave room for shopping. Remember, genealogy books, the little things like that. Also, when I budget for a trip, usually when I go to one of the conferences, I leave a little bit of room for last-minute change in plans. What if I need a different hotel because I don't like the one where I'm at? So I pad it a little to have a little bit of wiggle room. Also, emergencies and last-minute changes. Now, think about how do you react to last-minute changes. The library is closed and you were going to visit there. I know I've told the story before, but Newberry Library had a situation where a woman flew in from England on a Saturday and to do research at the Newberry. She's going home on a Tuesday, and guess what? The Newberry's closed Sunday and Monday. So that it was a preventable situation where you should have looked it up ahead of time. But also, what happens if your flight is canceled? What if you have to be bused to your location part way? How do you adapt to last-minute changes? Do you want to set up a contingency plan? Maybe have an alternate hotel or alternate airline. Also, for every location I go to, I write down the basic information such as police, hospital. I also find out if there's an urgent care center nearby. I always list the 24-hour pharmacy. I use Google Maps for that. I will put in an address, and they have a feature called Search Nearby, and I can find out where the closest pharmacy is. So these are things that you need to think about, and that's why I really urge people to examine and be honest with yourself in terms of what your travel habits are. So let's move on to actually planning your trip. These are some formulas for success. These are things that are proven to work based on my experience and the experience of others. Now, go off the beaten path. This is what I love as a traveler. I mean, I could very well just go to Salt Lake City, go to Fort Wayne, Indiana, but have you ever thought about doing a genealogy cruise? This is a trend right now in the industry. If you've never considered taking a cruise, basically it's like a conference, a genealogy conference on the high seas. You are there usually with a group of 300 to 400 other genealogists, but you're on board usually on a large ship. My last cruise was on a ship with 3,000 people, so we were about 10% of the boat. This was in Alaska. And what happens is the classes are held while the ship is out at sea. So you're not really missing much. Maybe you're missing bingo, maybe you're missing karaoke, but it's something to do during those days when you're not hitting any ports. The nice thing is you can share your meals with other genealogists. Again, it's just like a genealogy conference. So I do want to point out a resource here, a relatively new resource, Unlock the Past Cruises. They are out of Australia, but they're doing cruises all over the world. I'll be doing one in Sydney, Australia next February that will leave out of Sydney and go to southern Australia and Tasmania. And they have different cruises listed. They're doing the Baltic in 2015 and a few others. So check that out, Unlock the Past Cruises. It is on our resource list as well. But that gives you an idea of what a genealogy cruise really is. So back to our slideshow here. The other thing is to consider an organized genealogy society research trip. Many societies, not just the big ones, even local ones. I know California Genealogical Society does it, a few other societies. They have yearly trips where they go to Fort Wayne, they go to Salt Lake, sometimes they'll go overseas, and a lot of times it is focused on research. This is the one that's coming up now for NGS. Is there a trip to Washington, D.C.? Here's research trips over here. And there is a trip to Washington, D.C. this November. And they visit Library of Congress, National Archives, Craig Scott, Pat Stam, and a few other people, the DAR Library, really great locations. So they cover the fees, they talk about, medical form, etc. It's very highly organized. And this is something that might be easier than doing it yourself and putting your own trip together. Also, genealogy conferences, and this is what I'm going to point out. A lot of times when you go to a conference, like the upcoming FGS conference, it's right there in a city where there's a major research facility, like the Allen County Public Library. Or sometimes, if you're in a location, you might want to stop on the way to do research. Now, how are you going to keep track of all those conferences? Well, there's a new site called Conference Keeper. This, again, is on our resource list. And Conference Keeper lets you look up all the different genealogy conferences around the world. And then, so if you are going maybe to Dallas, Texas, down to, or Houston to the Clayton Library, you might want to see if there's a program available for you to pop into, a conference, a weekend workshop, etc. So I use this site quite a bit to keep tabs on what's going on. Also, if you have an event that your society has, you can always submit it here as well, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this in the chat so everyone has access to the resources. So perfect. Thank you for bearing with me. Also, what I urge you to do is do your research before you, as part of the planning process. This means understand where you want to visit, especially what resources you want. Call ahead. Talk to the archivist or a collection specialist. Did you know that some places will even pull materials for you and have them waiting for you? I have heard this from other genealogists. They said, I called ahead, I said this is what I'm coming in for, and lo and behold, I sat down and they had boxes or book trucks waiting for me. Also, the other thing I do is I look for books on Google Books before I go to the facility, because why should I waste my time? I've traveled all that way. Why should I be working with books at that archive or library that I can get at home in Google Books? It doesn't make sense. It's not a good use of my time. So I will go through. I've even done this on the mobile phone, on my smartphone. If I'm at a library and I'm about to pull a book off a shelf and I'm thinking, wait, this is out of print. This might be on Google Books. Why not go ahead and use it there? I know there's sometimes when you need that bit of information right then and there, and that's understandable. But I'm not going to spend hours on a book that I could get at Google Books. Also look for travel deals. So there are various things that are involved with travel deals. One of the sites that I use, this is an example. Your airline, if you fly a lot, I tend to fly American, they always have a page with bonuses, with packages, with offers, with sales. Make sure you also sign up for that if there's a way to sign up for that. That's really important. Now, and you don't need to be a high-flying traveler like me. If you travel once a year, you can still sign up for these notices. Don't think that this is for the road warriors out there. So I really urge everyone to sign up for every possible notification on your preferred airlines, your hotels, etc. Because who knows, there might be a great sale and it's worth going to one of these cities to do some research. Now, part of looking for travel deals is timing. You may need to be flexible. You also might want to think about what they call the shoulder season. So if you go to Europe, you know that Europe is very expensive in the summer. But if you went in April and May, that's on the shoulder of the summer season. Or what about September, October? I know that Europe is very cheap. I've been told it's very cheap the week of Thanksgiving because a lot of Americans don't want to travel to Europe that week. There's certain weeks where it's very affordable. So think about your timing. Your timing is really important. What do I have here? This is a new resource that I just found today, and I posted to the Pinterest board. There's a site called besttimetogo.com. And you put in your destination, and they help you understand what time of year is better to go in terms of weather, in terms of costs, etc. So this is one that I just stumbled upon today, and I was very happy to do that. Collect information. During the year, what I do is I have a manila folder, and when I get flyers and brochures mailed from genealogy events, it goes in there. Sometimes I'll print stuff out and it goes in there. That's sort of my dream travel file. And so I keep this, also coupons, anything about the destination that I want to go to. Right now I'm collecting stuff for Australia because I'm definitely going there in February. So here is also, I don't have a link, but Midwestern Roots was in Indianapolis. They were every 2 years. They're coming up in July and August of 2014. So again, I'm always looking out ahead of time and I collect that information. Get notified. As I said before, sign up for those travel deals. Priceline is good for this. You can always go to Priceline and they're right here, and you sign up. Get a hold of their deals. I'm not a big fan of Priceline because I like to know definitely where I'm going to be at. But if you know how Priceline works, a lot of times they don't reveal the place. They give you, in that price range that you set. But again, any site that is related to your travel where you're going, go ahead and sign up for those discounts. Then finally, points and perks. As I said before, here is Hilton Honors. Now, I don't stay at Hilton a lot. I stay at Hilton maybe about 5 times a year, but still I earn those points. I can convert those points to a free room. Even with Radisson, this is what I found out. Radisson, which is the Salt Lake Radisson, is really nice and reasonable. I had enough points that I converted it to a $100 Visa card. Some programs will let you convert it to money, and that for SLIG is how I basically paid for my meals, my week at SLIG, is I had converted my points. The other thing with points and perks is whenever you make a reservation, make sure that they have your number, your loyalty number for the program. When I check in, I make sure and I say, do you have my loyalty number? And I make sure it's on the receipt when I check out, because I want to get credit for that stay. There's nothing worse than going through all that trouble and not having credit for that. So those are the things to think about when you're planning. The other thing is, what are you going to pack? So whether you pack a week before or the night before or the day of, you know that as genealogists there are certain things that we have to have on our research trip. Now luckily, today we just put up a post at the FlipPal blog on what to pack for a family history research trip. Okay, now this is listed there. I'm actually going to post this over in the chat room, so give me a minute here. That way you all have this and this link right here, but you can go out and look for that. And so it's there in the chat area. And you'll notice, if you scroll down, all these things that I'm going to go over these right now, so don't panic. But if you want to print this out, this is your packing list. There are a lot of things here that are covered. So let's go over that. What are you going to pack? Now your list might be different because again, it's all based on travel habits. These are the things to think about. I print out things. Even as digital as I am, I still print things out. I print out or I put them in Dropbox. That's another thing you can do if you're paperless. At least save these as PDFs and have them available on your smartphone. So directions. Directions mapped out on Google Maps or other mapping program. I break it down into, these are my must-see destinations, and then I have a group that I call if I have time destinations. Hours of operation. I make sure that I call ahead of time to every archive and courthouse. I do not rely on the website. A lot of these governmental offices now have furlough days. They have budget cutbacks. I found out one courthouse closes on election day. So you never know. If you're not a local, you're not going to know. But I have all that information, hours of operation, etc. Policies and procedures. Can I walk in with my FlipPal mobile scanner and use it? What can I bring into the research room? Some places don't let you bring coats. They don't let you bring backpacks. Why set yourself up for a surprise? Why not have that printed out? Confirmation numbers. If you have confirmation numbers for hotels, car rental, make sure they're printed out. Also, folks, all of this stuff that I'm listing, don't pack this in your check bag. Make sure it's in your carry-on or on your person. There's nothing worse than having all that information and not having your luggage show up at the hotel, and that's where your confirmation information is. Emergency information. I make sure I have all the urgent care facility information. I also print out, these are emergencies, I print out the location of the local office supply store like Staples. I have a 24-hour pharmacy. Pharmacies are great for batteries, disposable cameras, all those little items, maybe a cord for the phone or for the computer. You can now get those at Walgreens and CVS. Research information. I print out my family trees, my group sheets, my reports, anything that I need to consult during researching. Now look, there should be even more. Wow, let me see. Okay, I forgot a lot of other things here. Contacts. Sometimes I will print out my contacts that I have, names and addresses, little address book. I print out a list of my favorites and my bookmarks, just in case I want to use a library's computer and look up those sites. If you have to print out your accounts and your passwords, make sure you don't pack that anywhere but on your person. So you would not want to have that loss. The other thing is I also have a 3x5 card that says ICE, I-C-E, in case of emergency. That I keep on me in case something happens and people can actually contact my family. Technology. This is what you want to pack. A flash drive. One or more USB flash drives. And also on that flash drive, you should put all those printed materials we just talked about. Here's another tip, and listen to this. This is worth the price of admission, as we say. I always create a little text file or a Word file that goes on the flash drive. The name of the file is contact info or if lost, and it has my name and my phone number, my cell phone number, and my email address. Did you know the Family History Library must get about 20 to 50 USB drives turned in every day? And they're not going to go through and figure out who they belong to. So if you haven't taped your information on the drive itself, they said they will occasionally put it in and look up the file, and if there's a contact file, I think that's a pretty neat trick. And you know, if that's where you have your information, you get that drive back. Cloud storage. Make sure you've signed up for one of the cloud computing programs like Dropbox. You may need it for research purposes. That's if you feel comfortable using it. Even if you don't bring your laptop, you could sign into Dropbox at the library computer and get a hold of the information you need. You can bring your laptop. Think about bringing your laptop, a tablet. Make sure you have all the chargers, all the devices that you're going to need so you don't run out for those. Cameras and recorders. Most of us have smartphones, or many of us do now. We don't need a digital camera. But if you want a separate digital camera, make sure you pack it, pack batteries, pack all the accessories you need to download the photos. Maybe extra SD cards for storage. If you have an audio recorder, my iPhone will record audio interviews now, but if you have a separate one, make sure you pack it. Smartphones are great. The other thing is think about buying a disposable phone once you get into the city where you're traveling. You may want to have that available if you need it, and those are relatively cheap. You can get them at a drugstore or an office supply store. GPS system. Again, these are kind of outmoded because most of us have smartphones that will do this, or many of us have smartphones, I should say. But if you have a GPS system, bring it with you. Remember, don't leave it exposed in the car. It's different than being at home. If you're out on a city street and, you know, in Salt Lake or whatever, I mean, that's an easy target and you're asking for a break-in on your car. Of course, the FlipPal mobile scanner, I mean, how could you leave home without that? You do want to bring that. You want to be able to scan those books and those documents, the photographs when you're visiting relatives. Keep in mind that you may never come that way again. If you're on that once-of-a-lifetime trip to Europe where your ancestors were, visiting relatives and scanning photos, there's an opportunity, and use your FlipPal for that. Other miscellaneous items that you want to pack, things like batteries, the different size of batteries. If you have a disposable, if you have rechargeable batteries is what I mean to say, make sure you have the charger with you. Change, coins for photocopiers and parking meters, vending machines. Power strip, this is a neat trick. I get a power strip, I have a mini power strip, and it's a really nice way to make friends at the airport or any place where you need more charging ports. So it's really helpful. And so even just a mini one, you don't need to get one of the large ones. Office supplies, get your highlighters, your pens, your folders, your magnifiers. First aid kit. Remember, if you're doing cemetery research, you might run into poison ivy. You might get a sunburn. You may trip over something. You may cut yourself. You could get a paper cut at the library. So you want to make sure you have access to a first aid kit. Food. If you have special dietary requirements, or if you have favorite snacks and beverages, make sure you pack them. Clothing. Yes, you have to wear clothes when you go to the library and the cemetery. I don't know of any clothing optional cemetery yet. Only the people that are buried there, maybe. But still, you want to make sure you have weather-appropriate clothing, dress in layers. In the summer, a lot of these libraries are cold, cold, cold. And then thank you gifts. What I do is I never give a gift when I first meet someone, a staff member, etc. I do it as a thank you. You can do a plastic bag with some candy in it and your business card, because sometimes you want that library to remember you, especially if you're a professional and they can throw some business your way. So you might want to pack a few of those. Also pack regional gifts. I pack Chicago-related items when I go long distances because they really intrigue people. So something from your area. Someone today said, yeah, she always packs little mini bottles of maple syrup because she's from New England. So that's a great idea. So I've changed this up a little bit. So we're going to go over emergencies, and then we'll go over some of the resources, etc. Stuff happens. Backup plans and emergencies. So what are you going to do if there is an emergency? What about weather? Stay on top of weather developments. You might want to sign up for a site like weather.com. It has alerts. You can always check what the weather is. And I don't know what's going to come up here, if it's going to be Chicago or what, but it's 67 right now. But see, there's a tropical storm on the way next week. And so you've got to stay on top of that information. The other thing is you have to be flexible. What if you had planned cemetery research and it rained that day? Can you swap that day out with another day when a library or something else is going to be open? So you might need to be flexible there. Air travel. If you have not traveled in the past 3 to 5 years, I urge you to go to the TSA site. There's nothing more frustrating than getting in line at TSA and then finding out what all the rules are. Invariably, I wind up behind someone that hasn't flown since Lindbergh or the Wright brothers. I once had an incident in Reno where a woman, she got the 3 and she got the 1. She had everything in 3-ounce containers. She had, but she forgot, and it was 7 bags. She had 7 different bags. And then she's trying to pawn them off on other people, and that's not going to work. So make sure that you understand how TSA works, what you can and can't do. If you're over 75 now, you don't need to take your shoes off. You can opt out of the full body scan, but make sure you understand how air travel works. Train travel. Train travel in the U.S. here can be frustrating. The reason is Amtrak does not own the lines. The lines are owned by freight companies, and they have the first right of way. Very rarely am I on time when I travel Amtrak. You had better pad your schedule by at least 1 or 2 hours, and that's pretty much guaranteed. It's very unusual to be on time for my experience and the experience of others, so make sure you allow yourself enough time. Car travel. Make sure you're at your best, that you're wide awake. Eyes are on the road, no distractions. Take breaks if you need to. Get plenty of rest the night before. Don't drive sleepy or impaired. Also make sure you take the car in for a tune-up before a long trip. Call home. If you're traveling on your own, what I usually do is I call when I land at my destination, and then we agree I'm going to call every morning at 8 o'clock their time, etc., so they know, especially if you're not traveling with a friend and you're in a new place. Also, don't forget, if you are stuck in an airport, get on Facebook. You don't have to advertise it publicly, but just say, does anyone live near Greenville, South Carolina, or live near Orlando? I'm stuck overnight. You'd be surprised at the types of offers that you get from friends or friends of friends that you can trust. Health emergencies. Make sure you have all your medications with you. This is one thing that I do, is I take photos of my prescription bottles on my smartphone and I store them in Evernote. That way I have all the dosage information in case I lose my prescriptions. This way, or sign up for the prescription program through Walgreens or CVS or whatever you use. But also, make sure you notify or have a way of notifying family members if you get sick. So you've come back from your trip. We're going to go over the apps at the end, the apps and the websites. So you've had a wonderful trip. And so what are you going to do with everything that you've collected during that trip? Here's some ideas. First off, create a travel log. I don't know if you've ever read any of these old travel logs from Victorian times forward. They're absolutely amazing. There are a few apps and websites that will actually let you keep a diary as you're traveling. One of them is called Trip Journal, and here it is. And let's see if it pulls up okay. And it's a way of recording using your smartphone everything that's happening. It's iPhone and Android. It is for sale. It isn't free, but it's very minimal cost. And you can keep track of all your travel memories. and it is the #1 travelogue or trip journal application that's out there right now. Use folders and binders. Organize everything that you have in folders, even if they're digital folders. Make sure you prioritize the items you want to incorporate into your genealogy research database. That's what I do. Scan and digitize. If you didn't bring a FlipPal or another scanner with you, we hope you brought the FlipPal. Maybe you had a location that didn't allow the FlipPal. Some places only let you photocopy because that's a profit center for them. Make sure you scan what you brought back. If you photocopied stuff, make sure you get a digital copy of that. Things get lost in the shuffle. You don't want to lose those things from a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Write down what worked and what didn't work on your trip. Review all your research discoveries. Look at your strategy. You might see a pattern develop. Yeah, on this day I found a lot of stuff because I was using this resource, or I worked with this person at the library, whereas I worked with this other person. They couldn't really help me. They didn't know the collection. Mark down your strategies. I always come up with a list, and that's a great presentation that you can give to your Genealogy Society, or you could write up a little article for your Genealogy Society newsletter. Also think about other writing projects. Sharing your tips and tricks and your memories about your trip with your Genealogy Society presentation, their quarterly, their newsletter, share it online in your blog, anything that you can to get the word out and help other people that may be visiting that destination. Also follow up on social media. I will often, if I visit a hotel, I will go out on TripAdvisor and give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down review. I will go and like their page. If I have a restaurant, maybe in Salt Lake City I tried for the first time, I do that. I spread the good word, and I give kudos to everyone there that really helped me. I share all my tips on social media, and there are people in the genealogy community that really appreciate that. So now, this is the fun part, right? We're going to look at some apps and some websites that you should know. Some you may be familiar with, some you may not be familiar with. So let's talk about planning. If you are planning a trip, remember we had Conference Keeper before. There's a few others out there that I'm not going to go visit. I'll mention them right now. There's one called Travel Math. Travel Math will let you determine whether it's better to fly or to drive to your location. Ride Buzz is another one, and by the way, these are all listed over at Pinterest. A Ride Buzz will let you find a ride to share with someone. So if someone's going from Chicago to Fort Wayne for FGS, they may have posted that request over at Ride Buzz. The other one is Stow, S-T-O-W. You can create your own packing lists using your smartphone. This is one that I rely upon a lot, Trippit. T-R-I-P-I-T at trippit.com. Go there right now. And I do have every trip that I'm working on right now in here. It also shows that how much I've traveled this year, 28,000 miles. But here, I have some trips coming up, and there's even more trips. And what I can do is, so let's see if I've got the Springfield Conference, and here I have one. The end of next week I'm going to Springfield for a meeting. Notice I put my confirmation number for Comfort Suites. I put the map, the address. Everything's here at Trippit, and this is free. The other thing is you can share this with someone at home so they have all the information. So you can do a paid version of this, which has more features. I've been able to get by on the unpaid version, the free version, but I really recommend that you start using Trippit to help plan out, and it's really nice to collaborate and share that information with other people. You can also record all your loyalty program numbers here, and it's really a good way to manage all of your travel materials. Air travel. These are the two sites that I use. I use Kayak, and I also use one called Sky Scanner, which I'm not going to cover. but they both do the same thing. They will go out and they will look for the best airfares. You can say nonstop, multi-stop. You can say regional airports, airports within a 50-mile radius. This is what Kayak looks like. And basically, if you wanted to go from Chicago maybe to Salt Lake City, you know, it's sad when I know all the airport codes, and let's say I'm going in August, and there was a pop-up ad already, and then I'm returning the following Friday. Do I want to look on Priceline? Do I want nonstops only? And then they start to look for flights, and they also, you know, have a lot of different information. I use Kayak all the time. Wow, that's a big price there. So it looks like Thomas is not going nonstop, but if I wanted to, I could go Southwest probably. So to do that. So yeah, Friday trip to Salt Lake is not in my future, as you can tell. Train travel, Amtrak. They have their own mobile app. They have a somewhat good website. I say that because it can be confusing to make a reservation. The mobile app is a lot better. Car travel. Few things you should know about. Gas Buddy is your friend. They will find local gas, the cheapest local gas for you. There's another one called Fuel My Route. F-U-E-L, My Route, R-O-U-T-E. And they will show you the cheapest gas from point A to point B. There's another one called Trapster, T-R-A-P-S-T-E-R, will show you the upcoming speed traps if you're traveling by car. This is Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy, basically, they have a mobile app that's really great. And I put in Fuel My Route. Oh well. This is Fuel My Route, and they will actually show you what the fuel is, where the cheapest fuel is on your route. And you can get a demo here for Indianapolis to Chicago. These are the cheapest prices, and probably Chicago prices are through the roof. I know that we're paying about $4.15 is the cheapest that I've seen right now. But they pull the current gas prices, and I'm not going to let this run, but that's roughly the idea. So let's get back to our show here. Travel emergencies. Now this is there's a few neat tools here. Real Alert is an app that actually has an alarm on it. If you're walking back to the parking lot at night, alert a friend. Creep Data, locate a hospital, call 911. This is something that's worthwhile. There's also another one. Let's see. This one is called ICE. ICE. This stores all your in case of emergency information in an app. So that you have it on your phone. I even found one called M Passport. It's for when you travel in a foreign country and you don't know the language. They actually have little pictures of, like, if you have a sore throat, they have someone showing that it's a sore throat, so that you can communicate a health emergency if you need to in a foreign language. I thought that was kind of a neat application. Stay in touch. You might want to check out Skype. Skype is something, it's free PC to PC communication, and that basically will allow you to stay in touch with friends. There is a mobile app for Skype as well, which I have. Skype is not always video. You can just talk by voice. It's a nice way to save on long distance or phone charges as well. So Skype is really a good program for you to have available. Food. We all need to eat, right? So there are a few here. This is one called Road Food. If you're into diners and dives and like the unusual, Road Food will find those places. Oh, can't locate it. I must not have gotten the link right, and it's probably wrong. Let's see if we can go to Road Food here. There we go. And I probably put the link in wrong. There it is. Road Food will let you, and I believe they have an app as well. And so you can find all these roadside diners and dives and anything like that if that's the kind of food that you're into. Okay. The other one that I want to point out, one that I really like a lot too, actually, Yelp, Y-E-L-P. When I'm in a strange city, I rely on Yelp for good restaurant recommendations. And they will show me the directions and show me how far it is from my hotel. The other one I like is Grubhub. Let me go out and do that one. Grubhub. They are in 400 cities now across the U.S. And what it is you can place an order for takeout, either pickup or delivery, over the internet. And if you notice here, I ordered Chinese. The nice thing is you can also pay with PayPal. You can even tip the delivery person with PayPal. And I used it in New York City last month. And so it's really a great service that I've used for about 3 years now. Very often I'm at hotels that don't have room service or maybe are not in a safe place, and I don't want to go venture out. So keep your eye on Grubhub. It's really a great program, and I believe they have an app as well. Accommodations. I use TripAdvisor all the time, and I also make it clear when I'm happy or unhappy at a hotel. When I'm happy on the way out, I said I'm going to go and write a review on TripAdvisor. And I've not been above. I don't use it as a threat, but when I'm unhappy with management, I say, you know, I'm going to go to TripAdvisor and share my experience. So I use TripAdvisor quite a bit. Hotel Tonight is another one that if you need a hotel room that night, maybe you had a cancellation or something happened, these are last minute deals, discounts up to 70%. So this is one of the newer apps that are growing in popularity right now. So, and that is a slow website, if you ask me. Okay, if you have all those technical things, if you're a techie, what if you want to find the local Wi-Fi? There is a Wi-Fi finder. This is the other one that I found that I love, Trip Splitter. If you're traveling with other people, you can enter in all the expenses and it will split it among the various people. And I think this is really great when you're doing those road trips with other people. So think about Trip Splitter. It is an app. I'm not sure if it's free or not. Usually apps are just minimal in price, but that's a nice way so you're not always working with a calculator. Then you can settle up at the end of the trip. Fun stuff. Did you remember the game Mad Libs, M-A-D-L-I-B-S? Well, if you remember them as a kid, they actually have an app now where you can do that on your smartphone. So maybe if you're driving your travel buddy, you both can play a game of Mad Libs. Road Trippers is a new site that actually will find like the biggest ball of twine in Iowa and whether it's coming up on your trip. If you have roadside attractions, find different places. People have written guides. It's all shopping, sports, scenic, entertainment. It's really a neat way to discover, and it works on a bunch of travel sites, other people making recommendations. So you can put in your to and from destination and get some good information there. So let's wrap it up and we'll take some questions here. So have you ever heard of a genealogist regretting a trip they made related to family history? I haven't. I have yet to hear someone totally regretting that they made that trip. But it's all about the quality of that trip. That's what it comes down to. And so you've got to put some planning into it. You've got to put some thinking into it. You've got to pack properly. You've got to have the proper tools. You've got to do your research ahead of time, do your homework ahead of time. I mean, hey, face it, we've got good research skills as genealogists, right? There's no reason why we can't apply this to the travel world, okay? So I want to wish everyone a happy trip. The other thing is the Pinterest list. There is a list at Pinterest called Family History Trippin'. And if I go here, let's see what it looks like. I believe I have it up here on the screen. And all of these resources that I taught today, Ride Buzz, there's one here from Better Homes and Garden on creative travel projects. These are things that I just drop in here. Grubhub, M-Passport. Lisa also has an article about her trip to Slovakia 2 summers ago. NEHGS has organized trips. Skyscanner, Stowe, TripAdvisor. These are all the things that I have culled over the internet. Here's Waze. W-A-Z-E gets you around rush hour in cities. So here's one. This is a neat one that is a mashup of Wikipedia. It's called WikiHood. What it is you put it on your cell phone, and as you're riding on the train or bus or or in a car, it will point out things and pull up Wikipedia articles related to the area that you're passing by, which is really kind of neat. So like I said, there's so many things out there. So finally, in closing, again, this was brought to you by FlipPal. Remember, FlipPal mobile scanner, I take it with me. It's in my backpack. It's always in my backpack on any travel trip. I've been able to scan a lot of items, even those that I know I could have taken a photo with a smartphone, but my hand is not always steady. The lighting's not always great. So again, you want to make sure that you pack your FlipPal on your trips. And I want to thank everyone for being here. I am going to turn, let's see, so Patrick, are you there? Hey, Patrick.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, listen. I was
Yes.
right. I told you at 20 after the hour, didn't I? I'm right on time.
Yes, you did. You're right on time.
Yeah. Well, listen. Do we have any questions?
No, actually, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's one of those areas. There's a lot of resources here. I don't want people to be overwhelmed. So I'm going to urge them to, also look for the recording. We will have the recording up on the FlipPal website at some point tomorrow. We are recording this presentation right now. And so, Patrick, I'm going to mute you then. And so I appreciate you being on hold there. And I want to thank everyone here. Spread the word about this webinar. If you enjoyed it, let them know that they can look for the recording at FlipPal. Also visit the FlipPal blog for that packing list article, and then go out to Pinterest and look at our resource lists on travel. It doesn't mean you have to travel next week. This could be for a trip next summer. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.